Sure, abuti honestly.
I'm the head of the detectives. Any detective that I give an instruction to anywhere in the country must comply with my instructions. I want that docket. I want to look at that docket.
Yeah, that's not how it works. Even myself, I can't just go into a province and say, no, I want that docket. What would be the reason? You must consult the provincial commissioner and tell him why you are doing that which you are doing. If the provincial commissioner is involved in a crime, yes, you might have a reason not to tell him. But if he's not, why would you then just get into a province and do it? It's not that to say if you are a deputy national commissioner, you have absolute power or authority on any detective in the country. You have authority in terms of policy that we will draft, it gets sent into the organization. But when it comes to the implementation of that policy, it is implemented by the provincial commissioner down there. And in case there are problems, they will inform you what is the problem with policy. But when it comes to the execution of the job or the work, the provincial commissioner in that province is responsible for policing there, of course, subject to whatever directives I can give, and or if it's delegated to the deputy national commissioner, yes, he can talk to the provincial commissioner. Under normal working circumstances, people will talk, there will be no problem. But if it's a matter of where you must then want to issue an instruction and there are problems, obviously, you do have the national commissioner that you can consult to say, I have a problem in this area or whatever it is. But you can't go into a province and just do anything or act without involving the provincial commission. If it happens, sometimes it does happen, yes, but immediately thereafter, you must bring the provincial commissioner into the picture.
Now there's two issues. Seemingly, the one is, or perhaps I want to ask you to comment. Is that a structural issue? Is it a personality issue? Or is it an issue? Is it a jurisdictional issue? Because surely, if a crime is, because the Act provides for it, isn't it? The Act provides for how you define a priority crime. We're not going to go through that. So it's a priority crime. It falls under that directorate, doesn't it? Irrespective of whether that crime was committed in any part of the country.
That is correct. A priority crime, yes, it will be a prioritized wherever, doesn't matter which area of the country it happens. And when it comes to the legally priority crimes, of course, that's where we have the DPCI, which is responsible for investigating priority crimes. And it is that head of the DPCI that can declare a specific crime as a priority crime. But generally, crimes that myself and the general police prioritize, there's nothing wrong in that. We can do it anywhere in the country. The structure of the organization is like is a matrix structure. So there are areas where you, for example, the head of DPCI do talk to me, do report certain things to me, but he have got a fixed reporting line with the Minister of Police, and hence the provincial commissioners also reports to me. But under normal circumstances, when people do not have any personalities, They will talk to the deputies. There will definitely not be a crime. It's not the first time that there is a deputy national commissioner and there is provincial commissioner. It has been there all along. And I operated in that seat for, I think, over 10 years. And I never had this type of problems. So I would say it's a personality, probably, issue. So it's something that can work if people are working together.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't legislate or prescribe personality issues. But what you can do is to try and avoid those clashes by making sure that the procedures are prescribed and must be followed. In other words, if a procedure is prescribed, stay in your lane. This is what you do, this is what I do. But we're not going to resolve the personality issues today. The problem, isn't it, also that priority crime, the Hawks, they have provincial offices and they have heads in those provinces.
It is correct, they do.
And those heads report to the director of priority crimes, the head of the Hawks.
That is correct, Honorable Chair.
And the provincial directors account to the head of the Hawks. They don't account, say for example, if a priority crime in KZN, that director is not going to account to the provincial commissioner of KZN.
Yeah, that's correct. But he will attend meetings of the provincial commissioner. He will report whatever he wants to report. And some of the matters he might not report. He will only report to the national head of the DPCI.
So in this case, in this specific instance of the dockets, the 121 PKTT dockets, where the head of priority crimes instructs that provincial director to remove the dockets from KZN and take it to Pretoria. Why would there be a problem with such an instruction, or would you expect that provincial director to consult still with the provincial commissioner of KZN, because that docket is now going to be removed from KZN and taken to Gauteng?
Yeah, the provincial head of the DPCI, of course, as I said, the national head of DPCI is empowered in terms of law to declare which crimes are priorities. So, but when he can, once he have declared, he can, national head can talk to the provincial commissioner to say, I want this following case dockets, through him directly, or he can, through the provincial head of the DPCI, ask or inform the provincial commissioner that such and such a cases are required by the national head of DPCI.
But of course, in this scenario also, I must be fair to you and also make sure that I get my facts straight. Sibiya is not the head of priority crimes.
No, he's not. The national head of the DPCI was Lieutenant General Sibiya,
Yeah.
which retired. Currently, there is acting national head of DPCI, which is Lieutenant General Nkosi.
Yeah.
So, yes, in terms of, well, in their case, in terms of law, that's how it happened. But in terms of Sibiya is not national head of DPCI, and he should work with the provincial commissioner. But also, the working of the DPCI also is not without faults or problems. It does impact policing in a way. Especially, as I said, the way certain crimes are prioritized. For example, when, let's say, cash in transit becomes a problem in the country, the society, everybody else will be looking at me and the police to say we must do something. And the national head of DPCI have declared CIT a priority crime, and he will take those dockets and investigate them. I can establish a task team or say, let's focus on this. And they might come into the meeting with their hands empty. And then I say, we must now analyze dockets and see where is the problem. In certain places, in specific cases, they will bring the dockets, get analyzed, and let's chase the robbers. But in some instances, if they come empty-handed, and they will look at each other with the other detectives and combat teams, and then you have a problem. And they will say, well, it's our mandate, we are busy investigating those dockets. So when they're gonna catch the criminals, you don't know. But
No docket.
when it comes to accountability, I must account. So that's the challenge that is out there. But with regard to this case of General Sibiya going to a province, taking dockets, no, it's not regulated by, it's not the one regulated by the Police Act of DPCI. No, it's mostly just a liaison with, that's the one that he must just liaise with the province and consult, and then, yeah, they agree on what they do.
Yeah, because Sibiya falls under you. You appointed him. He must conform to the your directives as a national commissioner, and where cooperation, consultation is required so that you can make the system work. That must be followed.
That is correct, Honorable Chair.
But if you have a situation as you described, which is quite scary, if not worrying for us as citizens, where they're coming to a meeting and say, hey, where's the docket? No one knows where the docket is. And it's exacerbated, like maybe in the cases that Lieutenant General Kwanazi is talking about, where this problem is induced artificially by certain people, especially in the case of organized crime. It becomes a huge problem, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, I do agree, yes. It becomes a problem. It's something I'm sure the committee at some point will have to look at on how to structure it. That's why I was saying you cannot have half a loaf of bread. It's either you have a bread or you have no bread. So I think that will be a best solution. Because sometimes if you say, no, I want progress on this case, and they've got no obligation to tell you the progress of the case, they report somewhere. So it becomes an issue.
Now, just to round off on the structures, there's the Act, the Police Act, Section 10 makes provision for a board of commissioners, which consists of the national and provincial commissioners. And the function of that board is to promote cooperation and coordination of the service. Now, how many times do you meet this board of commissioners?
We meet once a quarter.
Once a quarter.
But how it is constituted currently is that it is not only the 10 people that you are counting there. We also include, we had quite long deliberations, I think it's before my time, and we included the Deputy National Commissioners and the Divisional Commissioners in the Board of Commissioners. So yeah, we meet once a quarter. And some of, yes, it's an area, of course, that is subject to deliberations. At some point, we had the board consisting of the 10 coming to give feedback to others. And at some point, as I said, I think it's 2019 before I became National Commissioner, where then we decided to include both the divisional commissioners and the deputy national commissioners, so that the executive management is all on board of whatever decisions are made in the organization.
Now that is the position de facto, as a matter of fact, but it's not prescribed in the legislation.
Correct, it's not prescribed in the legislation. All we did is just we added the extra people to what is in the legislation.
So would you be in favor of at least what appears to be a fairly obvious amendment to the legislation, that this board, well, it obviously will have to be renamed because it's the Board of Commissioners. It's no longer, because it's the National Commission and the 9 provincial commissioners, some maybe Board of Senior Management or something like that, where all these heads that you appoint, there's the priority crimes appointed by the minister, all of these heads and the deputies are all included in this consultative body. Would you be in favor of such an amendment to the law?
Yeah, I would be in favor of such. Hence I took over also. I didn't change it to what it is. I left it the way it is. The reason why I will do that is the current, what is in the legislation, the 9 provincial commissioners and the national commissioner, 10 people. It practically it brings quite a number of challenges to the table. You have 10 people. To put it practically is to say you have 10 people in a boardroom. They are all temporary workers. Myself, if I finish my term, I'm left with about a year left. I think yesterday you asked Mkonazi as to how far he goes. I think he said next year early.
March 20.
Yes. Then you'll have somebody who's finishing January next year, somebody finishing December 2025, somebody finishing April next year. So you have 10 people who are in a boardroom to decide and make long-term decisions of an organization. But they are human beings, and they might also have their own interest at times. Now, if we look at it practically, these 10 temporary workers, maybe they are all left in less than 6 years, but they must take decisions, that far-reaching decisions for an organization that will remain there, even after they've left. Even the one leaving next month must take a decision that will have a long-term impact in the organization. So that's what motivated the idea that let's involve people that will have at least carry forward the memory lane, have a brain, that have a memory book of the organization going forward. That's what motivated that. And we have seen it in the past where, for example, a provincial commissioner will promote certain people, and when he moves to the next province, he will promote those very same people above those that he finds in that province, even if he's left with a year or so. So that, National must intervene and rectify that, but that's one of the challenges that says, yes, the law says the Board of Commissioners have these 10 people, but practically these people are driving an organization that will be there tomorrow and still in the future. So the interest of the organization will have it's long term, it's far reaching, it's not short term of tomorrow. And so that's why I will say I'm in favor of the current way of composition, which include deputy national commissioners, divisional commissioners, because you really have interest of the organization. Because if you really have these ones, I might be using the wrong term. I say they're temporary workers. One is left with a month, one is left with 2, one is left with 3, and they are alone in a boardroom. They are deciding for an organization. It just doesn't augur well. That's my summary. I might be wrong. Thank you.
But General, this board, which may now be renamed, if changes are made which you accept, that board doesn't have any decision-making powers, so it doesn't affect the organization going forward. What I read to you is that section was 10.2 of the Act. It talks about, or the main function of that board is to discuss ways of facilitation and consultation. In other words, these jurisdictional issues, the conflicts that arises from national appointments, provincial appointments, it seems to me that that's the main function of that board, is to iron out any of those differences and issues. So that, quite frankly, it doesn't matter whether the one sitting there from the provincial commission has got a month left, or another deputy has got a year or 2 left. They're not making any decisions that take us into the future. Or I'm not sure whether you were thinking of some other structure.
Yeah, well, if that is the only structure recognized, so they will be making inputs to policy of the organization, which that policy will affect the organization going forward.
Now, in this year, when is the last time that the board met?
Yeah, I can't remember, but it must be somewhere in May, June, I'm sure, somewhere there.
So if you met in May, June, Lieutenant General Nkonazi would have been in such a meeting. And from what you say, even though it's not prescribed in the Act, your other heads of divisions would also have been in such a meeting in May or June. Would that be correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, he will have been in such a meeting, yes.
So the issues raised by General Nkonazi in July on the 6th, were any of those issues raised or touched upon in this Board of Commissioners meeting? If so, why were they not raised? They're clearly issues of national importance, great importance to all of us.
Yeah, no, well, I'm sure he can answer that, but no, they were not raised, as far as I remember.
Nothing. Sure, I would do honestly.